Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're enjoying the video, please hit that subscribe button and give a thumbs up. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. It really helps support the channel and allows me to keep creating content for you guys.
Moving into my husband's family home, it felt like stepping into a brightly lit K-drama. Sunlight streamed through the windows, laughter echoed from the kitchen, and the air smelled faintly of my husband's mother's delicious cooking. I dreamt of this, a big warm family embracing me. A new chapter, a fresh start. I carefully unpacked my suitcase in the room they'd prepared for us, soft floral wallpaper, brand new bedding. Among my things nestled in bubble wrap were my cosmetics. A small indulgence, a set of luxury items I'd splurged on before the wedding, a little gift to myself for starting this new life. Opening the box, the delicate scent of jasmine and rose filled the air. My new foundation, my shimmering eyeshadow palette, my favorite deep red lipstick. They were like talismans, promising a beautiful future. But then, I noticed it. A faint smudge of powder on the edge of the eyeshadow case. The lid of my lipstick not quite screwed on tight. My new foundation pump, ever so slightly sticky? It was subtle, almost imperceptible. Maybe it was the packing, I told myself, smoothing down the unease that flickered in my stomach. Maybe I rushed, didn't close everything properly. I wiped the smudge, tightened the lids and pushed the feeling away. My husband's sister, Sujin, popped her head into the room, then a wide, bright smile on her face. Jihaya, are you settling in okay? Everything all right? Her eyes, though, lingered a little too long, I thought, on the open cosmetic box on my dresser. Oh, those look expensive, she commented, her voice a little too high-pitched. Are those the new Blooming Dew line? I've heard such good things. She reached out, almost touching the palette, then quickly withdrew her hand. Just admiring. You must have such beautiful skin to use such high-end products. Her compliments felt too much, too eager. But I just smiled a little stiffly. Thank you, Sujin's sigh. Dismissing the prickle of unease, I told myself I was being silly, overly sensitive. This was my new family. Everything was going to be perfect, wasn't it? Days turned into weeks, and that initial unsettling feeling, it didn't fade. It grew, festered like a hidden wound. Every morning as I reached for my cosmetics, there was something off. My foundation definitely going down faster than it should. My favorite blush, the delicate floral imprint on the surface, subtly blurred. One morning I distinctly remembered leaving my lipstick twisted all the way down. Now a tiny sliver of red peeked out from the top. I started to feel watched. Like invisible eyes were following me, especially in my own room, my supposed sanctuary. I began to subtly mark things. A tiny dot of pen on the bottom of my foundation bottle hidden under the label. A nearly invisible scratch on the edge of my eyeshadow palette. Each day the marks were disturbed. The dot had shifted, the scratch was no longer aligned. Someone was using my things. And I knew deep down who it was. Sujin. Her constant, almost predatory interest in my cosmetics. It was becoming suffocating. Jihaya, your skin is glowing today. What foundation are you using? She'd ask, her eyes too bright, too focused. That lip color is so vibrant. Really suits you. What brand is it again? She'd linger in my room, just chatting, always gravitating towards my dressing table, her gaze locked onto my cosmetics. I tried to hide them, tucked them away in drawers, placed them in less obvious bags. But it was like she had a radar. Somehow they were always touched, used. It was a violation, a small, creeping invasion of my privacy that was driving me slowly insane. I finally decided to be direct, but carefully so. See, I said casually one afternoon as we were chatting in my room, her eyes, as usual, drifting towards my cosmetics bag peeking out from under the dresser. Have you, by any chance, been in my room a lot lately? I just feel like things are moved around sometimes. Her smile faltered just for a fraction of a second. Moved around? Yeah, why would I be in your room? Unless Mother asked me to bring something I wouldn't. Is something missing? Her eyes widened, feigning innocence, but there was a hard edge in her voice now. Are you accusing me of something? The accusation hung in the air, thick and heavy. I backpedaled immediately. Oh no, Sujinasi. Not at all. I'm probably just being forgetful. Wedding planning stress, you know. I forced a laugh, feeling utterly pathetic. Later I tried to talk to my husband, Minjun. Appa, I started hesitantly. I think Sujin might be using my cosmetics. He chuckled, a low, dismissive sound. Jihaya, don't be silly. Sujin, my sister? Why would she do that? She has her own things. But Appa, they're expensive and I've noticed them being used. And Sujin is always asking about them. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Jihaya, you're being too sensitive. Sujin is just friendly. She's interested in beauty, that's all. Don't make things complicated, okay? We're a family now. Don't start creating problems where there aren't any. His words were like a cold splash of water, extinguishing the small spark of hope I had. I was alone. Completely alone in this house, surrounded by smiles that felt like masks, and a growing sense of dread that was tightening its grip around my throat. My beautiful new family. It was starting to feel like a gilded cage. I couldn't take it anymore. The constant suspicion, the gaslighting, the feeling of being watched, violated, it was suffocating me. I decided to set a trap. That morning, I deliberately placed my most expensive face cream, the one I'd been rationing like liquid gold, right in the center of my dressing table in plain sight. I even left the lid slightly ajar, a tempting invitation. Then, pretending I was going out with my husband, I slipped out of the house, only to circle back and sneak in through the back door. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of fear and anger. I moved silently through the house, my footsteps muffled on the thick carpets. As I reached the hallway leading to my room, I heard it. A faint rustling sound. Coming from my room. I pushed the door open and there she was. Sujin. Standing in front of my dressing table, my precious face cream in her hands. Her eyes were closed, her face tilted up as she lavishly applied the cream to her cheeks, her neck, her forehead. She was lost in the moment, completely unaware of my presence. For a moment I just stood there frozen watching her. Then the rage erupted. Asougin. My voice cracked, raw with fury. She jumped, startled, dropping the jar of cream onto the dressing table with a loud thud. Her eyes widened in panic, her face flushing crimson. Jihaya, what are you doing here? I was just... Her voice trailed off, her eyes darting around the room, desperately searching for an excuse. Just what, Sujin SSI? Just using my $100 face cream? Just helping yourself to my cosmetics every single day. My voice was shaking, but I pressed on, fueled by years of suppressed frustration. Don't lie to me. I know you've been doing this. I've seen it. I've marked them. But why are you doing this? Tears welled up in her eyes, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of self-pity, of being caught. Because you have everything, she sobbed, her voice breaking. You're beautiful, you're young, you have Minjun, and you have all these expensive things. Things I can't afford. Things I deserve more than you. Her words were like a slap in the face. It wasn't just about the cosmetics. It was about envy, jealousy, resentment. It was about her feeling entitled to what was mine. Deserve. I repeated, my voice dangerously low. You deserve to steal from me? To violate my privacy? To make me feel like I'm going crazy? She started to cry harder, collapsing onto the chair, her face buried in her hands. At that moment, my husband and his mother walked in, drawn by the commotion. What's going on here? My husband's mother demanded, her voice sharp. Sujin immediately launched into a tearful, distorted version of the truth, painting herself as the victim, claiming I had attacked her, accused her of something she didn't do. My husband, predictably, rushed to her side, comforting her, shooting me a look of angry disappointment. Jaya, what's wrong with you? Why are you upsetting Sujin like this? His mother joined in, her voice dripping with disapproval. Jihaya, you're being unreasonable. Sujin is sensitive. You need to be more considerate of her feelings. They were all against me. My voice, my truth, completely erased. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Years of politeness, of trying to fit in, of suppressing my own feelings. It all shattered. This wasn't a family. It was a battlefield. And I was the enemy. Considerate of her feelings? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that echoed in the room. You're worried about her feelings? What about mine? What about the fact that she's been stealing from me, invading my space, making me feel like I'm losing my mind? Does anyone care about that? My husband just stared at me, his face a mask of disappointment. His mother huffed, turning her back to me dismissively. Sujin continued to sob, the picture of wounded innocence. I knew then with chilling clarity that nothing would change. They would always side with her. I was an outsider, an intruder in their perfect, twisted little world. I turned and walked out of the room, ignoring their calls after me. I went back to our room and started packing. My hands were trembling, but my resolve was steel. I wouldn't stay here, not for another minute. My husband rushed in as I was zipping up my suitcase, his face a mixture of confusion and anger. Jihaya, what are you doing? Where do you think you're going? I'm leaving Minju Napa, I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. I can't live here. I can't live like this. He tried to reason with me, to minimize Sujin's actions, to convince me I was overreacting. But for the first time I stood my ground. I told him everything about the marks, the suspicions, the suffocating feeling of being watched, of being violated. He finally started to see, to understand the depth of my distress. But it was too late. The trust was broken. The dream was shattered. As I was about to leave the room, I noticed something on Sujin's dresser, half hidden under a pile of clothes. A small, intricately carved wooden box. Curiosity overriding my anger, I picked it up. It was locked. Something compelled me to open it. I searched around her room and found a tiny, ornate key tucked away in a jewelry box. My hands trembling, I inserted the key and turned. The box clicked open. Inside, nestled on faded velvet lining, wasn't jewelry. It was a collection of lipsticks. Dozens of lipsticks in various shades and brands, some clearly very expensive, others older, worn. And then I saw it. One lipstick in a familiar deep red shade, with a tiny, almost invisible scratch near the base. My lipstick. But it wasn't just mine. There were others, all marked, all subtly defaced. Like trophies. Like scalps. A chilling realization washed over me. This wasn't just about cosmetics. It was an obsession. A compulsion. A dark, twisted game. Sujin wasn't just borrowing my things. He was collecting them. Claiming them. Marking her territory. And I was just the latest victim in her silent, disturbing ritual. I closed the box, a cold dread settling in my stomach. Escape. Yes, I was escaping. But I was also leaving something behind. Something unsettling. Something that would haunt me long after I was gone. As I walked out of the house, leaving behind the warm, welcoming family I had dreamt of, I knew one thing for sure. The nightmare had just begun. And for Sujin, trapped in her own twisted world, it would probably never